Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I'm Star Smart. Let's begin. Ambazonians who have fled the violence in the Federal Republic of Ambazonia for safety in neighboring La République du Cameroon are at risk. La République du Cameroon colonialism tendency is not only seemingly bent on killing Ambazonians in their backyard, but anywhere in the universe. Whereas the CPDM Party for the Fear of the Unknown campaigns in Ayaba Hotel for the Northern Zone since 2016, that hostilities broke out with Ambazonians not wanting to have anything to do with La République du Cameroon in their land now sees their upcoming senatorial elections as an opportunity to blindfold the world that all is well in a war-torn Ambazonia. The CPDM party enjoying some relative comfort in the southern zones while the terrain remains hostile and very slippery for it in the northern zone. In the southern zone, the CPDM has no challenger, while in the northern zone, the party has to face the erstwhile opposition SDF that today has remained only a shadow of itself due to serious issues of its leadership. Well, in Undaunted tonight, we'll take a look at what the electoral periods hold in the Cameroons. But for now, we'll get the prime headlines.
Right here, all the prime headlines for today. Let's start with the story. La République du Cameroon beer element stabs a teacher to death. An Ambazonia in the IDP murdered in Yaoundé hospital. But the interesting part of the story is that the body parts are missing. Also today, the CPDM poised to blindfold the world again that there is return to normalcy in Amberland. Victims of colonial La République du Cameroon Mount Fako race explosion dies at Boya Regional Hospital. Also today, we'll take a look at West Africa, Nigeria, where the Nigerian citizens are saying that the presidential results so far are fake. Then on the foreign scene, Moscow accuses US of preparing a toxic chemical provocation in the Ukraine. And in sports, Lionel Messi, Argentina forward, wins Best FIFA Men's Player of the Year award. Right, let's get the news in detail.
The media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with Undaunted ABC Amba News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution on Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amba TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed, with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amba TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Amazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Ambazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambatv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team.
The actions of the security forces of neighboring La Republic du Cameroon cause many to question the type of training they are given in training centers. But the thing is evident in the fact that they have undergone training. They are professionals in extorting money from road users. This is an area where they are well trained. Now, this is the group of individuals deployed to Ambazonia to cause havoc and deprive the people of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia of their endowments. A secondary school teacher has been killed on his way to get his salary by a terrorist B element in Marua, a town in the far north region of La Republic du Cameroon. This is just proof that the cry of the people of Ambazonia or the human rights violation of the thugs of La Republic du Cameroon deployed to Ambazonia is true. How can a trained military officer engage a civilian he is paid to protect to the point of stabbing him to death? Well, on that sad note, we begin the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. I am Onyi Okbala. How are you doing, sir?
Very well, Onyi. Good evening, Ambazonians. Cameroonians have tested firsthand in their backyard what Ambazonians have suffered at the hands of the terrorist forces of Phobia, an element of the Battalion de Intervention, Rapid BIR, an elite force of neighboring La Republic du Cameroon, has killed a secondary school teacher in Marwa. The teacher, Undaunted, got the name Ayang Koftwing Etienne, a French language teacher who was stabbed on Monday, February 27, 2023, in the far northern region of neighboring La Republic du Cameroon. The report holds that the BIR element engaged in a fight, and at press time, Undaunted is still to get the reasons for the fight. It is during the fight that these, trained in professional BIR element, removed his dagger, stabbing the teacher in his stomach. While eyewitnesses' account states that the teacher was armless, yet the La Republic of Cameroon chose to stab the armless secondary school teacher.
Well, such an act is strange to Cameroonians who have been for some time supporting their forces that they are professionals. But to an Ambazonian, it is just one of the atrocities that have been committed against the people of Ambazonia. Ambazonians have seen the colonial La Republic of Cameroon soldiers killing a group of children in Ngabo, throwing a baby in a pot of boiling oil, and even wiping an entire family in Babanke, Tongo, just to name but these few. Well, Undaunted was able to get the name of the assassin. The cry of the people is that he be brought to book.
Moving on with our next report for tonight, Ambazonians who have fled the violence in the Federal Republic of Ambazonia for safety in neighboring La Republic of Cameroon is at risk. La Republic of Cameroon colonialism tendency is not only bent on killing Ambazonians, but everywhere in the universe. While Ambazonians IDPs in neighboring La Republic of Cameroon are being exploited sexually and raped, with some dying in the process. Some are simply assassinated and their body parts taken off. A young Ambazonian IDP admitted to a hospital in Yaoundé, the political capital of La Republic of Cameroon, was found suspiciously murdered with her body parts stolen.
Well, the story says that a 22-year-old Ambazonian IDP has been killed at the Yaoundé General Hospital. Ndong Omega was admitted to the hospital on the 22nd of February 2023 due to health issues. She was later found dead. The family discovered a shocking revelation that some of her body parts were chopped off. Since Ambazonian's life doesn't matter anymore before La Republic of Cameroon, the said hospital has not made any statements in this regard.
Rather, the family was even threatened to leave the hospital premises with the corpse. This is coming months after a top La Republic of Cameroon government official in Yaoundé abused a young Ambazonian IDP sexually, got her impregnated, and lured her to take a concoction to abort, a process that ended up killing her. This report we also brought to you. But despite all the cries for the man to be brought to book, nothing has been done, and the pedophile is out there walking free.
All right, and moving on, the CPDM poised to blindfold the world again that there is a return to normalcy in Amberland. Now, President Paul Biya's party, which for the fear of your noon campaigns in Ayaba Hotel for the Northern Zone since 2016, that hostilities broke out with Ambazonians not wanting to have anything to do with La Republic of Cameroon in their land. Today thinks that it can use their upcoming senatorial gambling called elections to blindfold the world that all is well in the war-torn Ambazonia. President Biya's party seems to enjoy some relative comfort in the southern zone while the terrain remains hostile and very sleepy for it is in the northern zone. Now, in the southern zone, Biya's CPDM has no challenger, while in the northern zone, the party has to face their east-while opposition SDP that today has remained only a shadow of itself due to a voraciousness of its leadership.
Well, Undaunted has just learned that La Republic of Cameroon's house slave Philemon Yang, coordinator of the Yaoundé party in the Northern Zone, has called on potential voters of the political party in the upcoming senatorial elections to believe in the party and not listen to distractions from opposition parties. Yang was speaking Saturday, February 25th, 2023 in Ayaba Hotel, Bamenda, during the launch of the 2023 senatorial election campaign for the Northern Zone. Quote, winning on 12th March will be an icing on the cake. We have to work hard and win by respecting the rules and regulations of the elections. Also respect the party guidelines, he said.
Well, Yang also reminded the militants that winning all their 7 seats in the northern zone of CPDM will boost their preparation to also win the 2025 presidential election. He goes on to say that every election is a risky exercise for the CPDM and her militants. He says, do not act as if you have won the election already. Now, Philmon Yang also told the CPDM senatorial candidates that winning will be an opportunity for them to work for the return of peace and security in the northern zone, adding that the senatorial election is about our future because we must promote peace, especially in this region.
The launching ceremony, which took place in the presence of Colonial La Republique du Cameroon Governor Adolphe Lele and other CPDM political party members, was to set the ground ready for campaigns, as it was revealed that campaign materials and voters' cards are all ready. Well, this year's so-called CPDM senatorial elections will take place on March 12, 2023, across the La Republique du Cameroon. Only regional and municipal councillors and mayors are eligible to vote.
Now, is the CPDM a scam or gambling? La Republique du Cameroon calls anything elections just because there is no other appropriate word to use, because what transpires in the end is only let my people go syndrome. Now, it is not a surprise to see young Philmon who took a list from Bamenda and it was tampered with at the level of the Central Committee and the Presidency of the Republic, and CPDM militants saw. They saw this as a slap in the face of young Philmon, head of the commission, and his team, and wants the original list restored. Now, Elecam publishes the altered list, noting that nothing was done, and it goes to launch campaigns with still nothing done. Now, worthy to note is that CPDM coordinator for the Northern Zone is former Prime Minister Yang Philmon, who headed the CPDM Central Committee Regional Commission to oversee the successful organization of their senatorial exercise, assisted by Madam Rose Amba Achafondem, Colonial La Republique du Cameroon Minister Delegate at the presidency in charge of the Supreme State Audit. Now, the duo and members of their team did their work meticulously and came out with the people's candidate, only to see something different.
Now, the $1 million question being asked by disappointed and frustrated militants of the CPDM in the Northern Zone is, how can the Central Committee conduct an exercise? A Central Committee of the CPDM dispatched a high-powered delegation that conducted an exercise. The commission effectively worked day and night scrutinizing files of candidates and finally coming up with an agreed-upon consensus list, only for Yaoundé to water it down. While the angry militants argue that if Yaoundé already had its candidate, why did they bother to send a pretentious commission to spend time and money on the field for nothing?
Well, whatever the case, since through indeed beat Paul Biya in the 1992 presidential election, there has never been anything near elections again in the Republic, and matters became worse when the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia crisis that developed to a full-fledged armed conflict took center stage. What is an election? What is an election? Become mere sneaky and backdoor or closed-door exercise to select and appoint either councillors, MPs, senators, or whatever. Today, one sees all these councillors and prime ministers, senators, or whatever living as refugees in La Republique du Cameroon, where some have built houses. As a matter of fact, they are more answerable to Colonial Yaoundé than their supposed constituencies. All right. Meanwhile, victims of the Colonial La Republique du Cameroon's Mount Fako race explosion dies at the Buyer Regional Hospital. Now, reports reaching Undaunted today says a female victim of the La Republique du Cameroon organized Mount Fako race explosion in Buyer died at the regional hospital this morning. The report adds that just being a mere spectator, she was severely injured alongside her 3 children as they stood by the door watching the colonial race on Saturday morning in the restive Amberland. It is believed that the woman, who is said to have hailed from Unwa in the Northern Zone and whose picture undaunted sources are still trying to post, was among the people severely injured in the triple explosions that injured 20 people during the 50th edition of the Colonial La Republique du Cameroon Mount Fako race. Coming from Unwa, she and her kids were eagerly watching to see their kids and kin, who usually triumph in these cases, that day.
Well, her 3 children, including a 1-year-old who were also injured, are still at the hospital taking treatment, while the mother is now at rest at the Boyer mortuary. Undaunted gathered that the family stood in front of their house watching the race when one of the explosions blasted very closely, injuring them. News sources reported on Monday that most of the explosion victims were out of danger and had been discharged from the hospital. Well, one thing is certain that Ambazonia remains a land that will be free. All right, now we're moving to the African reports and looking at Nigerian elections. We brought to you yesterday the 2023 Nigerian elections that were held on the 25th of February. The presidential candidates who were voted for among Senate and House of Representatives, with the incumbent President Muhammad Buhari being third-term limited and eligible to run.
Videos of electoral violence erupted in different parts of the nation, especially in the populous states of the River State and Lagos State, Nigeria. From some of the videos, you would hear a series of violence and monotony of votes and forced violence still that people weren't allowed to capture on video, as they were threatened as well. In this particular video we saw online, you can hear the man saying that he told him to go to his village if he wanted to vote for the Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi.
Well,
there was no video. There was no video. See my cloth. Tell me in public, everybody they there. Say if you don't vote for P2B, if you want to vote for P2B, go home. Go to your local government.
So if you want to vote
for P2B, go home. In River State, Unit 18 here. For Rumibo, Unit 18.
All right, now that's the video for hearing it from the horse's mouth. Well, interestingly, in some other parts of the country, by Yausa to be exact, people were not allowed their rights to vote as no INEC official was sent to their polling units. This caused the people of Bayelsa, Nigeria to march the state protesting for their rights to exercise the civic responsibilities of voting. Let's also have the video.
Disenfranchised people. This situation live in Yenegoa. INEC officials are deciding to disenfranchise people. You can see the youth in their masses protesting. We must vote. We don't go green. We can't control like this. The whole Yenegoa, there's no polling unit. No INEC officials to be found anywhere. This is getting out of hand. This is too much. We can't take it again. The punity in this country has to stop. It must stop. Look at youth. The whole Yenegoa. No INEC material, no INEC officials anywhere to be found. You can't see them anywhere. See youth. Look at the population. Look at the population. The whole Yenegoa.
We must vote. We must vote. We must vote.
Well, a lot of persons have opined that the elections are already rigged due to a lot of inconsistencies. This includes live votes and final results televised differing. Here are a few reactions to these effects from Nigerians that we got online. Well, while we're trying to get that, the voice of the people from Nigeria have stormed the internet so much in the last few days that we couldn't even skip this particular bit of reports. But take an in-depth look at what's happening there.
Well, not forgetting, we told you before that the presidential elections in Nigeria has a lot of international interest involved, as it is indeed the giant of Africa. Meanwhile, the European Union, EU, election observation mission to Nigeria on Monday issued its first report in which it catalogued how Saturday's presidential and National Assembly elections in Nigeria were bungled and highlighted the massive failures of the umpire INEC.
Now, in that report, the EU election observer says the INEC lacked efficient planning and transparency during critical stages of the electoral process, while on election day, trust in INEC was seen to further reduced due to delayed polling process and information gaps related to much anticipated access to results on its results viewing portal, the IREV.
Well, they added that during the early stages of collation, presidential results forms from polling units were not displayed on the IREV, while Senate and House of Representative results were slowly published. Presidential election results forms started to be uploaded after 10 p.m. on elections day, raising concerns and reaching only 20% by noon on 26 February, later the same evening, while INEC explained the delay with technical issues.
All right, away from Africa, let's move to Ukraine and Russia. The war seems not to be ending anytime soon. While Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky acknowledged Monday that the situation is deteriorating in and around Bakhmut, a besieged mining city in Donetsk in eastern Ukraine that has been a key target for Russia for months. While the situation is getting more and more difficult, Zelensky said, in his nightly address, the enemy is constantly destroying everything that can be used to protect our position to gain a foothold and ensure defense, he said. On Sunday, Russian President Vladimir Putin said Moscow has to take into account NATO's unclear capabilities as he again forcefully claimed that the West wants to eliminate Russia.
Well, echoing on Monday, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the West wants to isolate and even dismember Russia. He added that the future world order is being decided now. A top Russian defense official claimed Tuesday that the U.S. is planning a provocation in Ukraine using toxic chemicals. The official Igor Kirillov, chief of the Radiation, Chemical, and Biological Defense Troops of Russia's Army Forces, said comments by former U.S. Ambassador to Russia John Sullivan on February 22nd were a basis for Russia's suspicion.
Well, on February 22nd, an influential American non-governmental organization held a conference on the event in Ukraine. During the event, former U.S. Ambassador to Russia, John Sullivan, made a statement claiming that Russian troops were allegedly planning to use chemical weapons in the Special Military Operation Zone, Kirillov said, according to Russian state news agency. Now, they regarded the information as the intention by the U.S. itself and its accomplices to stage a provocation in Ukraine using toxic chemicals. Kirillov added that Moscow believed preparation for a provocation were underway, claiming that toxic chemicals and protective gears were delivered simultaneously to Ukraine. He said that if such a provocation takes place, Russia would identify the true culprits and punish them.
Well, it is not the first time that Russia has accused the West of planning a provocation that it said could then be blamed on Moscow. Similarly, the West has accused Russia, a country that has used chemical weapons in Syria, of potentially planning false flag attacks that it could blame on Ukraine.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Meanwhile, before we get to sports, we sincerely apologize for the inability to bring to you the State of Liberation movement with Dr. Martin Mungwer. I'm sure that by next week, we'll definitely bring that particular episode for you. So please do not miss next week for the State of Liberation movement with Dr. Martin Mungwer. And in sports, Argentina. In sports, Argentinian Paris Saint-Germain forward Lionel Messi has been named the Men's Player of the Year at the 2022 Best FIFA Awards. The 35-year-old beat French forward Kylian Mbappe and Karim Benzema to the prize.
Well, Canada soccer president Nick Bontis has resigned amid an ongoing labor dispute between the governing body and the men's and women's national teams. The women's side said they will boycott a team camp in April if their demands over funding cuts and pay inequality are not met. Well, let's have Gabelison tell us more.
Latest world sports. Football. Lionel Messi. Argentinian Paris Saint-Germain forward Lionel Messi has been named Men's Player of the Year at the 2022 Best FIFA Awards. The 35-year-old beat French forwards Kylian Mbappe and Karim Benzema to the prize. Messi captained Argentina to World Cup glory in Qatar and scored 27 goals in 49 games for club and country in 2021-2022. Barcelona's Alexia Putellas was named Women's Player of the Year. Messi, who won the award for a second time, said, "It's amazing. It's been a tremendous year, and it's an honor for me to be here and win this award. Without my teammates, I wouldn't be here. I achieved a dream I had been hoping for so long. Very few people can achieve that, and I have been lucky to do so." At the ceremony in Paris, Lionel Scaloni, who led Argentina to their third World Cup title, was named Men's Coach of the Year. Scaloni beat Pep Guardiola, who guided Manchester City to a sixth Premier League title, and Real Madrid Champions League winning boss Carlo Ancelotti to the honor. England manager Sarina Wiegman was named Women's Coach of the Year after leading the Lionesses to European Championship glory on home soil last year, the team's first major trophy. Aston Villa and Argentina's Emiliano Martinez was recognized as the best men's goalkeeper, while England's Mary Earps won the Women's Award. Martinez, 30, helped his country win the World Cup, saving 4 penalties along the way, including a shootout victory against France in the final. Receiving his award, Martinez said, "They always ask me who my idols are or who I watched when I was a kid. Watching my mom clean buildings for 8 or 9 hours and watching my dad work, they are my idols." Earps, who played for Manchester United in the Women's Super League, started all 6 of England's games at Euro 2022 as they won the competition. She said, "For anyone who has been in a dark place, just know there is light at the end of the tunnel, so keep going. You can achieve anything that you set your mind to." Amputee footballer Marcin Oleksy of Polish side Water Poznan won the FIFA Puskas Award for the best World Cup title for the best goal of the year. He sent a stunning overhead volley against Stal Rizzo, flying into the back of the net with the help of his crutches. Recipient of the Fair Play Award was Luka Luchashvili, who held the tongue of his opponent, George Tegel, to save his life after the midfielder had fallen unconscious. FIFPro Men's World 11. Thibaut Courtois, Achraf Hakimi, Virgil van Dijk, João Cancelo, Kevin De Bruyne, Luka Modric, Casemiro, Lionel Messi, Erling Haaland, Karim Benzema, Kylian Mbappe. Canada's soccer president resigns amid ongoing dispute with national sides. Canada's soccer president Nick Bontis has resigned amid ongoing labor dispute between the governing body and the men's and women's national teams. The women's side said they will boycott a team camp in April if their demands over funding cuts and pay inequality are not met. They called off a planned strike earlier this month because of threats of legal action by Canada Soccer, CSA. The players protested against CSA during the recent She Believes Cup. They wore purple t-shirts with the phrase "Enough is enough" before their marches. Canada's men went on strike in June 2022 after accusing CSA of disrespect over World Cup prize money and have said they wholeheartedly support the women's side, with both national teams previously calling for a change in CSA leadership. In a statement announcing his resignation, Bontes said he believed the two national sides will sign an historic collective bargaining agreement. Once signed, it will be a landmark deal that will set our nation apart from virtually every other FIFA member association, he added. While I have been one of the biggest proponents of equalizing the competitive performance environment for our women's national team, I will unfortunately not be leading this organization when it happens. I acknowledge that this moment requires change. The CSA has said it has a proven track record of supporting women's football. Adding pay equality was at the core of negotiations with the national team players. The CSA spent $11 million on the men's program in 2021 and $5.1 million on the women's program. The women's players said the disgusting discrepancy between the Canada men's and women's programs became apparent at last year's Men's World Cup in Qatar. They are looking for the same backing for this year's Women's World Cup as the men received before Qatar, where they competed in the tournament for the first time in 37 years. Canada's women, who are sixth in the world rankings and won Olympic gold in 2021, are in Group B for the Women's World Cup, which takes place from 20th July to 20th August in Australia and New Zealand. Cricket. New Zealand beat England following one of all-time great finishes. England lost to New Zealand by 1 run in one of the all-time great finishes to the second test in Wellington. On a barely believable final day at the Basin Reserve, last man James Anderson was cut down the leg side of Neil Wagner when England needed 2 to win. Anderson had joined number 10 Jack Leach with 7 required after Leach added 36 for the 9th wicket with Ben Foakes, who was caught at fine leg for 35. Anderson fended off a vicious bouncer from Wagner, then sensationally clubbed the next ball for 4. Leach saw off and over from Team Southie, leaving the stage set for Anderson. But Wagner's 4th wicket left England 256 all out and drew a deafening roar from the Basin Reserve crowd. Needing 258 to win the match and series, England calamitously slipped to 85. Then after a stand of 121 between Joe Root and Ben Stokes, experienced another collapse of 314. Foakes, Leach and Anderson almost got them over the line, but ultimately England lost a test after enforcing the follow-on for the first time, and it was the 4th such defeat in a history spanning almost 150 years and 2,500 test matches. It ends a run of 6 straight victories and denies them a 7th straight win, a feat last achieved by England in 2004. For New Zealand, their first win after following on earns a 1-all draw in the series and protects an unbeaten home run that stretches back to 2017. England's next test is against Ireland at Lord's on 1st June before their bid to regain the Ashes begins on 16th June. An almost entirely separate England squad begins a white ball series in Bangladesh on Wednesday. Gab Ellison reporting from Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
And with that sports report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, let's give you the recap of our major stories.
In tonight's Undaunted, we talked about La Republic du Cameroon BIR element stabbing a teacher to death, an Ambazonian IDP murdered in Yaoundé hospital and body parts missing. Also, the CPDM poised to blindfold the world again that there is a return to normalcy in Ambazonia.
Right, today we told you that victim of colonial La Republic du Cameroon's Mount Fako race explosion dies at Boyer Regional Hospital. And in West Africa, Nigeria, we told you that the Nigerian citizens had said their INEC results are false. Also, from the foreign scene, Moscow accuses the U.S. of preparing a toxic chemical provocation in the Ukraine. And in sports, we told you that Argentina forward wins Best FIFA Men's Player of the Year award. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing to the news on top stories. On behalf of my co-anchor Smart and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV Images. Good night and God bless you.